Hi, I'm Carrie Vander from Golf Course Trades. We print and mail the Golf Course Trades magazine and send it out to all the Golf Course Superintendent, managers, and directors all over the United States monthly. We send out the weekly newsletter as well, and you can subscribe to both of those on our website, golfcoursetrades.com. Welcome to another Learning Center event. Today, Jay Flemma will be talking about the North Jersey Country Club's renovation with Head Superintendent Dan Kilpatrick and Hank Gola, who was formerly with the New York Daily News and is a wonderful club ambassador. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey there.
Hello, Carrie.
Hi.
Well, welcome aboard, everybody. It's nice to see all you good folks again. This month, we're going to journey to North Jersey Country Club. And so I'd like you to meet two of my very favorite people, Head Superintendent Dan Kilpatrick and the great Hank Gola of the New York Daily News. If you read sports in New York City or even New York State, you read Hank. Hank basically found his true home for golf. And one day he called me up. He said, you got to come and see North Jersey Country Club. It's really special. You would love it. It's quirky. It's difficult. It's fascinating. And it's got golden age architecture. And he was absolutely right. North Jersey Country Club has actually two architects. It's got Walter Travis and Robert Trent Jones, and now there's a restoration being done by Tommy Fazio, son of Tom. So welcome aboard, Dan. Welcome aboard, Hank.
Wrong.
Here we go again. He's being contrarian. Go ahead, Hank.
The restoration's being done by Brian Schneider of Renaissance Golf. The Fazios were in here a few years ago, and they redid two holes on the backside. But Schneider, who is somewhat of a Travis expert, is in here and crafting with his bulldozer, getting some of our greens back to classic Travis greens. So taking the pancakes out and putting the undulations in.
Tell us a little bit about the history of the club.
Sure. Started out as the Patterson Golf Club. In 1895, we just recently celebrated our 125th anniversary. Patterson was a booming industrial city. Two main industries: locomotives and silk. And an engineer from Scotland who was a golf enthusiast was visiting the locomotive works here, and happened to bring a club and a ball, and basically took one of the executives from the locomotive company out to the top of the hill in Patterson there, and they started hitting the ball around. And that was the genesis of North Jersey Country Club. In 1925, the club moved from, it had two previous locations, and then came here in 1925, hired Walter Travis to design the new golf course. And Clifford Wenderhack, who's one of the prominent old school architects of clubhouses, did the clubhouse. It was his first. He later went on to do Wingfoot, Ridgewood, Mountain Ridge, and some of the classic old look clubhouses.
And Forest Gate.
Forest Gate as well, Hackensack, and I think Bethpage Black, although those are done in different styles than I did. But anyway,
now, Travis was a great player as well as a terrific designer, and it was because of his excellent playing career that he had an entree into designing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what are the hallmarks of a Walter Travis golf course?
Go ahead, Dan. I'll pass this over to you.
I think because of the way that it was always described to me was that Travis was an excellent short game player, and we kind of put the premium on the short game, and his greens and his surrounds were probably some of the tougher, more creative designs that we've ever seen. And, especially there's no specific design trait when it comes down to, you take a Hollywood, and Hollywood has almost 200 bunkers, and then you take a course like, it has 200 bunkers because it's flat, but you take North Jersey and it's not. It is hilly and rugged terrain, and when he originally built it, there was only 21 bunkers.
Yeah, because the ground was so hard, so rocky that instead of digging for bunkers, they came up with other hazards like mounding, and we're bringing back a lot of that mounding now in the restoration. So,
is it possible that he picked up some of that mounding from Devereaux Emmett, who used it at Garden City and at many of the other courses he designed? As we know, all the Golden Age architects tended to riff off one another.
Yeah, they all stole from each other, so yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But the place looks great. I mean, it's going to be, Jay, when I brought you here a few years ago, it's going to be so much better because Brian Schneider's in there. We've opened up a lot of the holes, brought a new feature, gotten rid of a number of bunkers, and it just looks like a much bigger, more expansive golf course now. It's just tremendous. And bringing back the Travis greens over the years, it's actually started with some of the golf course superintendents. They felt that even though the mission for Travis was to build a championship golf course worthy of big time tournaments and everything, the membership thought it was too difficult in the early 30s. So the greenskeepers started making it less difficult. And unfortunately, he wasn't a golden age architect. He was a golden age greenskeeper. So we lost a lot of those original features. There was something called Hell's Kitchen on what was then the fifth hole that he took out right away. Hell's Kitchen was a little too tough for it was a giant crater, and some of the members felt that it was too hot in that kitchen. So that was not right.
Now, tell us a little bit about how Robert Trent Jones got involved with the club.
They just brought him in here in the 70s, to, quote, modernize. That was the term, modernize. And we really don't have much of a record of what he did, to be honest. Because when we started this renovation, they went back and they tried to find plans of what was done here. And they really couldn't come up with much. They even went up to Kenny Farina, I think, went up to Cornell University, where all the Robert Trent Jones records are kept, and they really couldn't find much. So I don't know. All I know is that there were a lot of fingerprints on this place that weren't Walter Travis's, and we're trying to get back as much Travis as possible.
And then there was a period where you were working with Tommy Fazio before you got Brian Schneider. And Brian, I humbly apologize. I knew that. I really did. Tell us a little bit about how the restoration is going to weigh each of the prior architects. When the finished product's completed next year, how much will be Travis? How much will be Jones? Will any be the Fazios?
Well, we're taking one nine at a time, and we're working on the front nine now. The back nine is now open for play, and next fall will be reversed. The front nine will be open, the back nine will be under construction. It's all going to be Travis. That's the inspiration. Brian Schneider is trying to bring us back as much to Travis as possible. There's no look to go with Robert Trent Jones or the greenskeeper of the 1930s.
Question to both of you. How are you on aerials and old photos and pictures from back in the 20s? What's Brian got to work with, and how much of it will be true restoration? How much of it will be recapturing the flavor of Travis?
Yeah, go ahead.
So unfortunately, we don't have very much. We have a couple shots, and number 7 was a specific one that we had that we knew, the mounds and the humps were in play, and as they were building the golf course, he was adding to them. He would have members go ahead and pick up rocks and throw it into a pile, this one or that pile there. He was adding to the piles. The club kind of, when they built it, it was never really finished. It was always a work in progress with the rocks and stuff. It's kind of a neat story. And ultimately, when it came down to it, the mounds were in the history books. They were obviously recorded that they were removed and removed and removed. Some of the things that as far as pictures were concerned, there was very small snapshots of number one green where it shows just enough for Brian to do what he wanted to achieve. It's amazing to me. He had a picture that probably showed 1/3 of the green, but now as he's done with it, that's what it's starting to come to shape right now. So it's pretty cool.
This might be a good time to pull up some of the slides for everybody to take a look at some of the work that's been done.
But for one, let me add one thing. I think it's on four, which is our second par 5 on the front. The inspiration for that is number 7 at Scranton, which is a classic Travis course. So there's a little bit of each. There's trying to recreate, but there's also being inspired by some of the other great Travis greens around the country.
All right, so let's take a look at these slides. I remember this hole. This is one of my favorites. This is number 2, an uphill par 3 that looks superficially like a reef hole, which was a design that the Golden Age architects played tennis with back and forth. And finally, it appears that Tillinghast finally spiked the ball and scored the point because he had the most strategic example of a reef hole. But why don't the two of you walk us through the strategies of this beautiful par 3?
Go ahead, Dan. First of all, you can see the before and after. So you'll see the 2 bunkers in front right were removed, and it's actually more difficult now without the bunkers. But go ahead, Dan.
As far as the strategy is concerned, so I kind of not much of a golfer, so I kind of hit it in the air and hope it lands on the green. But I think ultimately the green itself, originally when we started working on it, there was a bunker on the left and the bunker on the right. So there was sort of death on both sides. The right side bunker was removed and bent grass was added. And a lot of that was just to add a little bit of difficulty in playing off of a tight lie. Yeah. A lot of what's going on at North Jersey right now is that there's going to be a lot more bent grass expansions around the greens. And a lot less bunkers. We've removed 16 bunkers.
Yeah, if you're right at the green now, you'll be trying to hit a very difficult chip to an uphill green that runs away. So you'll actually have to land your chip short of that putting surface and let it run on and figure out all the humps and bumps. Number 2 is a classic Travis green. That was one of the existing, I think we had 7 or 8. 7. So this was one of them, and this is just a great example.
It is a great example, this picture. Can we please go back to that? The bottom photo in particular shows 2 important strategies. The first one being, you'll see coming in how the fairway swerves around the bunker. That's what we mean by a reef hole, as in trying to bring the ship into port through the reefs. And the second is that picture also shows how that green is almost a pedestal. It's almost pushed up on all sides. So it's actually a much smaller target than it appears, and it seems like the smartest thing to do on this hole and on many Travis holes is hit it to the middle of the green and take your chances with your putter. Am I right about that, fellas?
Correct. The other areas, hit it short, and then you could actually putt on from short to the green. That's the best approach. You got that. If you're left and right, then you've got problems.
Now, by the way, we want to encourage everyone. We've got a great number of attendees. Welcome, everybody. We're glad to have you. And we're getting some questions in the chat. So before we move on to the next slide, Chris wants to know, how late in the winter do you plan to keep working, especially laying sod? Are there any times you deviate from your written blueprint and change construction on the fly?
So we'll go as long as we can. We got a good week this week, and Probably we'll have half of next week to lay sod just because of the Christmas holiday. But we'll go as long as we can. As long as the sod isn't frozen, then we're gonna continue going. During the winter time, when it gets cold out, we'll be tarping them and covering them over the winter time for recovery and a little bit of root development. And yeah, as far as the question of do we change on the fly? Yeah, I don't think, we get a blueprint from Brian, but honestly, and I think this is why we got Brian, was because he wasn't stuck to a blueprint. It was kind of on the fly, and that's what you get with him. And I think ultimately that's just sort of that adjustment. It allows for a little bit more creativity and a little bit more enthusiasm in the design.
What's really cool is to see Brian at work in his bulldozer, just sculpting the green. I mean, you can imagine this huge piece of equipment, and he's work. It's a work of art what he's doing with the shovel. It's amazing.
Here we go. All right, so we're going to move now to the next slide. So Hank and Dan, show us what changes are being made. This is a before picture of two of the longer holes coming back to the clubhouse. The nice thing about North Jersey is it comes back to the clubhouse at number 3 as well as at number 9 and number 18. So you can play little loops. And so show us what's happening here on this particular portion of the property.
Yep. So we did work 2020, started in March, and when we got into construction, so the bunker on the right was removed.
The third hole is the one on the left, and the ninth hole is the one on the right. Is that correct?
Yeah. So
okay.
On the right, you'll see the bunker that has been removed from 3. The second bunker has been rebuilt. The third bunker was reshaped. And right before the first bunker, in between 3 and 9, we had added another bunker. We actually found the original footprint of that bunker. So we followed that around and recaptured it. So now we have the 3 original bunkers that were on the hole.
Okay.
How do you find let me ask Dan a question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you find the footprint of an old bunker?
When you start digging, you end up finding sand.
Uh-huh.
We found the sand, and then we dug a little bit deeper, and we actually found the old drains within it.
Out of curiosity, back in the day, a lot of greens were built on charcoal. What were these greens built on?
So the greens have been rebuilt, and we are currently doing again. They were, I think what they essentially did was they put a layer of gravel over top, or sorry, underneath the bottom, put it in the bottom, and then they took the original topsoil and put that over top. The problem ultimately became that they were so compacted that we really had a hard time draining, and that gravel layer really didn't do anything because everything was so compacted.
And what type of grass are the greens in the fairways?
So the greens are specifically Poa annua. It's almost 95% Poa annua. And the fairways are just about anything to bent Poa and ryegrass.
Okay, so let's move to the short par 4 6th hole. Hank, I know this is a favorite of yours. Why don't you walk us through this hole?
Well, the changes here are stunning. It was a good par. It was a good short par 4. Dogleg right, woods on the right. Most of those trees, a lot of them have been taken out. And you had basically your play was to hit maybe a 3-wood onto the top of there's a little platform fairway, and there was a bailout area to the right with some rough. If you bailed out on the right, you still had like a very short iron in, maybe a 9-iron or a wedge. Well, all of that's become fairway now, and the whole hole is expanded. You'll see these mounds. The bunkers are gone. The mounds are in that we talked about, and the green is just spectacular. It used to be basically a pancake running from the back to the front, sloping down. It was probably the slowest uphill putt on the golf course. If you'd bring a guest here, they'd never get it to the hole. I mean, never. He was as hard as they tried to hit it. And then again, from the other side, it was a very lightning downhill putt. But right now we've got some mounting and undulations in there. The whole thing looks fantastic, and it just comes across now as a much bigger golf hole. The scope of the hole from tee to green is fantastic, and there's just a lot of area that you didn't even recognize before that is part of the hole now. But Dan is out there every day. He could probably add his insights.
I think one of the things that we did was we dropped the green about I think it was about 4 feet ultimately. Everything in that whole picture, you can't really tell the significance of dropping it as much as it did. But I think, even just in seeing that the tee was dropped as well, and now you can't see the tee from the background. But ultimately, I think what he had kind of said was he took a green from 18 at Yanadassus and kind of put his little stamp on it, and it's eerily similar to number 3 that we have here, which is a phenomenal green. So there's a lot of similarities as well.
Yeah.
On number 3.
When Brian was looking at our 3rd green, when he first got to the property, I think he said it was one of the greatest Travis greens he'd ever seen.
Yep.
3 is an amazing green, and it's kind of one of the basis for this one.
Now, you mentioned the Yanadassus. This is a perfect time to ask, did you and Brian and any of you take a trip around and play various Travis courses? And what did you think of Yanadassus?
So I never had the luxury of going to Yanadassus, but Brian, I think, goes on a sort of a pilgrimage, a Travis pilgrimage every once in a while, and I think he gets a little bit of inspiration every once in a while just by seeing them. And from my perspective, we've seen Lakewood and Hollywood as well. As far as I never got a chance to go out to Scranton, and I've been kicking myself for not. Sure. But it's one of those courses that is on the bucket list, but we just haven't. Life has been a little hectic this year, so it's.
That's understandable. But when you two do get the opportunity to play the Yanadassus, you'll play it with me. I happen to live 3.5 miles door to door to the Yanni. A wonderful golf course, and again, a very tough and difficult golf course. Let's move to our next photo. Okay, number 7, one of my absolute favorites. Hank, walk us through the changes, please.
Also one of my favorites, because I finally got a hole-in-one here.
Congratulations.
And 48 years of playing this stupid game, and I finally got one to go in the hole. And I am really grateful that they did not take that little backstop out of the green, so it is still there. But the green is expanded. There are so many more pin positions available now. You'll see the bunkers have been taken out in the front, and the Travis mount's been put back in. That one way in the back, you'll see there's 4 of them that are pretty obvious. The one in the back used to be in the fescue.
I see it in the upper picture, yes.
So that'll give you kind of an idea of how the entire green complex has expanded. It just looks more like a crater right now than anything, instead of an elevated green. But this is fantastic. The photo is great, but it doesn't do its justice. If you're standing out there looking at this, it just is magnificent.
It really is both visually arresting and terrifying. That green extends diagonally, so the further to the right you go, the longer you got to hit the ball. And it's a fairly long shot over all that water anyways. It's a fairway medal for me. What are you hitting in these days?
My hole in one?
Yeah, well,
I hit, I used the backstop and I hit 7-iron, and I think it was 145 to the pin, but I hit it behind the pin and brought it back off the slope. So I what's the back? 165 maybe from the back tee to the.
yeah, I just pulled it back a little bit with a 7-iron, nothing to it.
Fairway wood that we need to move you up to the senior tees here.
Well, I may have misspoke there. That now that I remember when we played there, I think I actually had a longer iron in too, but it really didn't matter because I hit it to perdition. It's a good thing I can ski. Anyway, moving on to the next. Okay,
I'd like to comment on that hole because it's so fantastic that I want to get his perspective on 7.
Dan, please.
So I think from number 7, there was a very small green with an exceptional amount of slope on it. For the square footage, it was just a little too small. Some of the guys would hit into the slope and ultimately roll off the green in the front. What this change does is it gives a lot more pinnable positions in the front, and it extends the pinnable positions in the back as well. You got a lot bigger shelf in the back left, and to me that was a bigger in the green in itself. We kept the original blueprint, however we just kind of adjusted to make for pin positions that are a little bit more acceptable to a shot.
Yeah, that corner now 6 and 7. It was like it was fine. It was like an corner. Now, when you go into it, you just can't ignore it. It's stunning. 6 and 7 when you make that.
Well, the slope on that green is just sheer murder. I mean, it's a teacup. Everything rolled off of it. Yeah. I fell victim to that false front. Anyway, shall we move to the next photo?
Yeah.
This is absolutely gorgeous. Okay, this is the par 4 8th, and the sculpted edges of that green are absolutely beautiful, and the mounds in the fairway even more so. That picture on the bottom there will be the one that shows everybody coming into the green. So, Dan and Hank, tell us about this hole.
Always a very good hole. I mean, it was, but now it's even better because it's just the entire hole's been expanded. When did they put the mounds in? 2 years? Was that
2020?
2020, they put those mounds in, and everybody looked at those mounds and didn't know why they were there. And my answer was, well, they were there because they were there in the first place. But but now it makes sense why they're there. If you just look at the hole, now it's obvious that they're part of the golf hole because the entire green complex has been stretched out and expanded. And when you look at this hole coming back from the tee box down to the green, it's just great. I mean, all that area was fescue. Now it's bent grass. The challenges of the short game are here. There's a false front that always is a pain in the you know what. And just a magnificent golf hole. And now it looks the part now for sure.
I see what you mean about Schneider shaping beautifully on his bulldozer.
Well, and like we took the bunker out on the right side of the green, and he kind of shaped that as he was going. But when it comes down to it, the change that we made this year was on.
We're getting some chat here. A fella named Leaf says, whatever you do, don't miss this green right or you'll make a big number. Am I mistaken, or if you are on the right, doesn't that green go away from you?
Yes, it does. Yeah. This was an original Travis green now. So there wasn't any kind of redoing. It wasn't sculpting the green itself, just the complex around it. But yeah, you can't, and you often miss the green. You very seldom hit it, it seems. Yeah.
The green itself is relatively flat, and the left and right sides are what kicks you out or in, depending on how lucky you are.
A number of members offered their congratulations on your ace, Hank.
Oh, yes. Well, it was also doing a tournament, so everyone got to drink free on my ace. And,
Oh, was that the Golf Writers event?
no, it was. I think it was the closing day. It was Archibald Graham. We have a tournament, and two of us, Pete Robertello, who's the incoming president, aced the same hole later on. So we had two. We were drinking on two that night.
Now, when will the work be done on the back?
Next year we'll start this late in October, and hopefully we can wrap it up a little bit sooner than this year. This portion of the project, I think, number 6 took a little bit longer than we expected, but I think that's construction in general.
So, any final thoughts on the project and on the club and what the future holds for North Jersey? Anyway, it's great having both of you fellas. I look forward to having you on my radio show for iHeartRadio in January. Thanks for coming aboard.
Hey, 1 second, Jay. What did you think? What did you think of that video? I mean, can't you see the improvements that are made and the transformation of the front nine? It's just incredible.
The grand scale of the property has always been the most impressive thing. And you really get the majestic sweep of the terrain from that video. And the music is appropriate too. It's, martial music as the drone flies overhead. But it's a fantastic job. I mean, the shaping looks gorgeous. You pick the right guy in Brian and in Renaissance. And it looks like the sky's the limit for you guys in the future. And didn't you recently win a Club of the Year award from the Met Golf Writers?
I should have mentioned that. Yeah, we were actually Club of the Year for 2 years in a row because of COVID. So there are some we were Club of the Year to kind of coincide with our 125th anniversary, which kind of some of the events that we were going to put on got wiped out, unfortunately. But that honor is I always felt it was well deserved, and we used to be kind of considered a hidden gem. I think after this renovation is over, we're going to be much less hidden. I hope we get some recognition because Dan was the superintendent of the lower course at Baltusrol, and I don't think that's Baltusrol is Baltusrol, okay, but I don't think we really fail that much by comparison if you look at the two.
Well, it certainly is what Travis would have wanted. A beautiful, difficult test. And that's what he was best known for. Dan, any final thoughts on your end?
Well, it's been exciting. It's been a fun project, and I think everybody's excited to see what ends up happening when we're all said and done. But we're still a long ways away.
Yeah, we're going to play it after this is all done. It's a treat, and will be even more.
Well, thank you all for joining us, especially all of you good folks who joined in to watch us live. I'm going to send it back to you, Carrie. This is Jay Flemma for Golf Course Trades. Signing off. Thank you, Hank Gola. Thank you, Dan Kilpatrick.
Thank you, Jay.
All I have to say is it's wonderful to listen to all you guys talk about this course. Makes me want to learn how to do golf. Can you guys give me some hints and pointers?
You don't want pointers from me.
Brian Kilpatrick, head pro, was in the chat room there, so I'll refer you to him.
Okay.
If you'd like.
Well, I suffer from the same thing Alistair McKenzie suffered from. My golf game's so bad that if people see me play, they might never give me another gig again.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for joining us, and thanks to all the attendees and the people that participated. This event will be on the YouTube channel on the Golf Course Trades. So if you want to share it to people that are near or want to try this course out to come visit it, we can share it and send it out. Please feel free to subscribe. We also have some previous webinars about other courses that you can learn about their renovations and all their individual holes and ups and downs and mounds and bunkers, etc. And just stay with us, and we'll keep subscribing, and we'll keep bringing you new events.
Thank you.
Okay. Happy holidays, everybody.
Take care, everybody.